Hi, I'm back at the shop. Today we're going to start a little project for building a stand for a little power hacksaw that I picked up recently, and it's on a wood stand right now. It's pretty old and it's not a terrible design, but the motor is mounted below it, and I'd like to stick the motor out behind it and possibly be able to make a guard and all that to make it a little safer. So plus, this is going to give me a chance to do a little practice welding. So we did some measurements and we came up with some ideas and a drawing, and we've got some basic dimensions that we need to hold so we can mount it, but we've changed a few things since this drawing, so it's going to be a little different, but the basic dimensions are the same. So we've got ourselves a pile of rusty steel that we picked up from a buddy, and we got our chop saw here, so we're going to go ahead and cut some pieces to length and spare you the details of that process because it's pretty noisy. So we'll come back when we get all the pieces cut and figured out how we're going to do this. Well, after a little work and a lot of noise, we got these parts all cut out to size, and we deburred them and ran them on the wire wheel a little bit to get a jump on trying to get them cleaned up, make it easier now than trying to do it before we paint or powder coat or whatever we decide here. So we will take these and we'll go back to the weld shop and we'll start in. Well, here's a look at the saw that we're talking about. We're going to take it off this old stand here, move that motor and put the motor in the back that direction over towards the side. I think that might work out better. Maybe we can make up a guard for it or something. Not that we really want to be safe, but just in case. So kind of a neat old saw. Seems to work fine. Made a couple little parts for it, wear parts, so it works better now. And we're going to go ahead. We're over here at the weld area, and we've got this set up with some clamps down on the table here. And probably if I was to do it over again, I would probably just make these corners just square, just butt them into each other, because getting an exact 45 is tougher than it looks. At least it was for me. So I tried sanding them in and everything else, but it's close enough. We'll stick this together, see where it comes out. All right. Well, I got the saw removed from that old wood stand and kind of cleaned up with the parts I couldn't get to before, and we got this frame stuck together, and it came out pretty square, and it looks okay. It'll be fine. And then now we've got another little plate here that we're going to tack on from underneath, so we've got a spot to mount our motor. We'll get that done, and then we'll take it back over to the machine shop and we'll cut some holes. We'll lay this out for where the holes go for the mounts for that, and then the mounts for the motor itself, we'll go ahead and take it back to the shop and get that taken care of. All right, show you more. Okay, I got that plate stuck down. I'm sure it's not going anywhere. And then I just set this on where it's going to go, and then I'll take a transfer punch and then transfer the mounting holes for this, and then figure out the motor mounting holes, and then that's when we'll go back and drill them once I get this all figured out here. So getting close. Okay, I'll back over at the other shop. We'll just go ahead and use the Bridgeport for a drill press for this. Easier to put it down on a table than a drill press table, and we'll just go ahead and drill these holes that we center punched for some mounts. That worked out well, nice and stable, easy to drill those holes. So I guess now it's back to the welder shop and try to get some legs attached to this thing. Back at the weld table here, made a few measurements of the spread between the legs there for going on that. Came up with that, kind of made a little jig, try to hold it in place as best we can with some magnets and some clamps, so we can go ahead and tack it and double check and make sure that's going to work. So we'll take a look and see how that goes. Well, there's the legs stuck together. Looks like they're both pretty equal. So now we'll go ahead and see if we can figure out exactly where we want them on that and stick them on that. Well, I've made a piece of wood to stiffen the bottom part up there and also for a shelf. And I'm gonna go ahead and cover that with a piece of galvanized or something. I'll find a piece for that just so it doesn't get too oily. But the rest is pretty well together. Made it easy to weld the legs on with the stiffener on there first and got the spacing, and that made it pretty simple. So go ahead and mount the saw and check all the fittings and make sure everything's fitting right on that before we kind of disassemble it a little bit and primer it and put some kind of paint on it. And still need to figure out a guard for the motor up there, so we'll mount this stuff up there to it and see how it looks. Well, here's the finished product. Decided to go ahead and powder coat it. Had it done in yellow. We were doing some other powder coating as a batch, so that's what it turned out, but it looks pretty good. Fabbed up a little guard for the belt just to make it a little bit safer. Covers that. Put a piece of steel down below on top of our plywood to make a little better shelf. And now we're just going to switch out and put a new Starrett blade on it and give it a go.